Greetings, fellow ALARP1 students. My topic for this semester's capstone presentation will be unjustly vilifying law enforcement based upon the actions of the field, the effects of anti-law enforcement rhetoric on both law enforcement and the community at large. Introduction. Statistics. According to the FBI LEOKA program, 23% more law enforcement have been murdered in the same period of 2020 as 2019. This is in large part due to anti-police rhetoric, which then spurs on anti-police violence and general disrespect towards the police and law enforcement. Story of Officer Joseph Mensah. Officer Mensah was physically assaulted and his home was vandalized on September 8, 2020 in Milwaukee. Protesters also fired a shotgun round into Officer Mensah's home. The irony is that the protesters were chanting Black Lives Matter. Apparently, the lives of Officer Mensah and his family did not matter to them because they were police officers or they were associated with a police officer. Story of Captain David Dorn. Captain David Dorn was murdered by a thug on June 2nd in St. Louis over a television at his friend's pawn shop. He responded to a call that his friend's pawn shop was being robbed, and he responded. While he was responding, a thug murdered him. Captain Dorn was an active and vibrant member of his community who will forever be missed. Law enforcement. What is it and what do they do for the community? Law enforcement is the act of enforcing the law, usually done by someone who wears a badge and carries a firearm. Law enforcement members not only enforce the law, they also help the community by purchasing food for the needy people, delivering babies on the side of the road, running into towers on 9/11, and running into burning buildings. Why does this matter? It matters because all human life is sacred and we are made in the image of God. It matters because law enforcement protects us. If there was no law enforcement, no one would be able to protect the law-abiding citizens. It matters because anti-law enforcement rhetoric makes communities more dangerous. I would like to ask you a question. What does law enforcement mean to you? NYPD retirements are up 25% over the same period last year. Spectrum News. Thesis and presentation map. Thesis. Anti-law enforcement rhetoric is hurting not only law enforcement but the community at large. Presentation map. I will have 3 subtopics, the first of which will be anti-law enforcement rhetoric. The second will be effects of anti-law enforcement rhetoric on law enforcement. The third and final part of my presentation will be effects on the community at large. Effects of anti-law enforcement rhetoric on the community. More crime, less law enforcement. Vulnerable communities lack trust in law enforcement. An example of this is a statistic from the Cato Institute that 40% of African Americans trust the police. Another example is that 68% of Chicago's fragile community want more police, according to Gallup polling. Another example of an effect is damage from the George Floyd riots will cost at least $1 billion. This is according to Fox Business. Property damage as a result of anti-law enforcement rhetoric. Jim Siegel, the owner of Axeman Surplus in Minneapolis, Minnesota, was forced to hide in a bathroom while his business was ransacked. Kay Bala, a firefighter and sports bar owner, received a call that rioters had burned his dream to the ground before he even had an opportunity to serve a single customer in his sports bar. Thank you for listening to my presentation and have a good day.